like to ask you a question that's a little bit off the wall because you have from time to time mentioned the option of public service
Mhm.
forgiveness. And obviously, if you go that route, you're committed to it.
Mhm.
That's kind of your only choice at that time, and in terms of getting um, uh, special attention. But do you have any opinions on whether that's potentially a good idea for some people or a bad idea for all people? One of my
Mhm.
podcast guests was actually a person who did that and seemed to have
Yeah.
been perfectly happy with it. But your
Yep.
opinion on public service?
Yep. Perfect. Oh, I love that question. Thanks, Dr. Randy. Yeah, public service loan forgiveness has a failure rate of 98%.
Woo.
Wow.
So if you are a physician pursuing public service loan forgiveness, which is a terrific program, can be a marvelous tool, you must make certain that you have the right kind of loans on the right repayment plan, working for the right kind of employer, and filling out the forms correctly. Physicians are
What's
receiving.
behind that? If it's that so unsuccessful, what's behind the failure?
So the program started in 2007. It requires 120 monthly payments, so 10 years. So and then 2017, the first people were eligible, right? So now it's been, what, 4 years? What happened back in 2007 when the program started was that the rules weren't written down. Like Congress hadn't really figured them out. They hadn't told the U.S. Department of Education. The U.S. Department of Education hadn't told the loan servicing companies,
Oh
right?
my gosh.
So it took a number of years for people to even, one, know about the program. So like those, I think it was 83 people of the first group that applied. I think it was, it's whatever, 2%. That was 2% of the people that applied, 83, got forgiveness. But I think they just got lucky. Like they just happened to do all those things that were correct or maybe they were working for the federal government or something. I don't know. But since then, now for the last, at least since 2010, things are much more clear. In the last 5 years, we're seeing that medical schools are doing a much better job of talking to their doctors upon their exit. There are a lot of companies that have sprouted up that are doing a lot of education. Folks like you are understanding how important it is to talk about it, not just like at the beginning of residency, but all the way through someone's career if they have loans. And so information is out there. And so now the problems we're seeing, Dr. Randy, are problems with the loan servicing companies making mistakes. So do you want to hear a bad story?
Yeah, because
tale
of warning.
How are we going to know what the enemy is if we don't expose it?
That's right.
Yeah. So lots of physicians that are working for large healthcare employers are pursuing public service loan forgiveness because it's financially can be fabulous for them. And so what they do is once they follow all the criteria, and once a year they send in a form to their employer just to verify that, yep, they're working for a qualified employer. And then the federal government or their loan servicing company sends them a report back saying, you now have 80 out of your 120 required qualifying payments. And that's great, right? And so then every year we're working with folks, we say, okay, what's your new number, your QP, your qualifying payments, we call them the QPs. How many QPs do you have? And so every year they tell us, oh, no, I had 80, now I've got 92, or, it just keeps piling up. Sometimes when the borrower gets that letter, there's a mistake in the counting. Not like, I'm just shaking my head on this. There's a mistake in, you're kidding me? Like people are owing hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans, and you made a mistake counting one of the months that they were employed? Yeah, so...
somebody should be accountable for that error.
Thank you. That was my whole point. Thank you.
That sounds fishy.
Totally. And is it a software problem? Is it, who knows what the problem is? But the problem is that for the physician, that means, like we just talked, I've got so many stories. So there's a physician, she called, I think there were 13 missing. So then what happens, they call me, because one of the things we do, and I think we're the only company in our market that does this, we get on the phone with the physician and call their loan servicing company. So I love these calls. My brother doesn't like them. But I sort of like an adventure, and it's always an adventure when you're talking to them. He's more like, give me the numbers, right? He's more like that. He's a math guy. I'm more of a, give me the adventure. And so we called, and they looked, it's a long process, but we found, I do this so much that I know how to get right to the guts of things. And so we had the dates of the 13 missing payments, and we said to them, could you look at April 2007 and, May 2020, because these payments don't qualify. Can you tell us why? They were 2 cents short on the payment.
Oh my God.
No way.
And it wasn't the
Wow.
borrower's problem, because, if you know some of the student loans, they took out a loan for every semester they went to school. And so they might have, 15, 20 different student loans. You don't have to make 15 or 20 different checks. You just make one check for the whole payment due, and then it goes over to the servicer, and they divide it up among all the different loans. That's what always happens. And somehow in the division, those 13 payments got poorly credited by 2 cents.
Oh no.
Mm.
So they're in the process of fixing that for us. But are you kidding me? That's why, yeah. So back to your original question, Dr. Randy, do we recommend public service loan forgiveness? Is it good? Is it bad? What I say to physicians when we consult with them on the front end is, if you want to we run the number. I think you have to have good data to make a good decision. So we run the numbers. We say, okay, this is what your payments will look like. This is how much you'll save. If you do a private refinance, if you do public service loan forgiveness, whatever it is, they've got the numbers right in front of them very simply. Not complex. It's very simple, Schwab. And then I say, in addition to the dollars, you have to think about the hassle factor, is what I call it. Because if you're pursuing one of these federal programs, it's going to take you time, blood, sweat, and tears. It's going to be frustration along the way, likely. And maybe your time is more important to you than your dollars.
Well, it is for a very busy healthcare professional.
Exactly.
It absolutely is.
Yeah. And so sometimes people don't know for sure yet. And so we have like a temporary plan during residency, and then once they're in attending, and because sometimes people don't know how their career is going to, unfold for them. And so we can do like 2 or 3 stage plan. But there are some folks that could benefit from public service loan forgiveness that choose not to use the tool because of the trouble.
The problems.
And I'm
with
okay
it.
with that. I'm okay
Yeah.
with that.